I'm Anna, and welcome to episode 36 of the Crime Bistro podcast. For this episode, we are doing something really different because this one is actually a two-parter, but we are going to go into a huge amount of detail about Anna Delvey, her case, her newfound fame, and all of her scandalous behavior. Because there is just so much information to cover, by the time I even got near to her trial, I already had like 13 pages of notes. So I decided that this would need to be two parts, or else this episode would end up being irritatingly long. This is one of the most frustrating and mind-blowing cases of the 21st century, in my opinion, because of just how many scams Anna Delvey was actually able to pull off in the digital age. It took her a long time to get caught and for anyone to make a complaint to police about her scams, which is insane to me. She is now a very famous influencer and public figure and the subject of Inventing Anna, which is a widely renowned Netflix series that had overwhelmingly positive reviews. But perhaps the most bizarre aspect of Anna's case is that even though she is a convicted criminal, she scammed individuals, businesses, and banks, even her close friends, out of tens of thousands of dollars without remorse. She's shown herself to be a very self-centered and possibly narcissistic personality, and she's generally just kind of a rude person. She is still very famous, and there are people who really like and support Anna and keep putting her at the forefront of some of our most popular forms of media. It's actually a very weird concept to explore that like a criminal scammer could be put on such a high pedestal as Anna has been, and to be accepted and supported by so many people. It is like watching a social experiment in real time, which is just beyond fascinating to me. But anyways, you will be able to form your own opinions at the end of this two-part series, because by the end, you are going to know more about Anna Delvey than Anna Delvey knows about Anna Delvey. So strap in, because you are going to need a lot of caffeine to get through this one with me. Trust me on that. Today, I am just having a plain and simple black coffee. Anna's extravagance throughout this entire story is just a little bit too much for me, and I needed something classic and simple. One more thing, her real name is Anna Sorokin, but I am going to refer to her throughout this episode as Anna Delvey because that's just how she refers to herself, so I think it makes the most sense. Anyways, grab yourself a coffee, caffeinated beverage, or your emotional support water bottle, and let's dive into the bizarre world of Anna Delvey. Anna Sorokin, who later became Anna Delvey, was born on January 23rd of 1991 in Domodedovo in Soviet Russia. This was a working-class town that was located south of Moscow. She was born to her father, Vladimir Sorokin, who was a truck driver at the time, as well as her mother, who owned a convenience store, and she also grew up with a brother. To my knowledge, her mother and brother have chosen to remain anonymous throughout everything that's transpired over the past few years, so out of respect for that, even if their names have been released at this point, I didn't look for them and I won't be sharing them. And honestly, I wouldn't want to be associated with her either. This girl is bananas. From a young age, even though her family would best be described as middle class, Anna developed a deep fascination and appreciation for fashion, and to her credit, man, is Anna an ambitious character. She had a friend growing up who later said that Anna was pretty infatuated with the movie Mean Girls, and that she kind of thought herself and her friend were really pretty and popular, just like these characters in the movie. That being said, it wasn't a surprise to anyone when Anna realized her ambition was to become a magazine columnist, and she started reading Vogue and other fashion blogs pretty religiously at the age of 13. Really, she wanted to be just like the models that she was seeing in these magazines, which, let me say, when I was a young teenager, I also would have loved to look like Rachel McAdams, but that didn't mean I ended up like this Anna. And excuse any confusion during this episode, because obviously my name is also Anna. We're not the same person. Anna's family did the best that they could to keep up with her expensive taste, but money doesn't grow on trees, so things were a little bit tight until Vladimir, her father, got a job in Germany. This meant that when Anna was 16, her family moved to the town of Eschweiler in Germany, where her father was going to be working as an executive at a transportation company. During this time, Anna was attending a Catholic prep school in town, though it didn't seem that she especially liked Germany just as a whole, which is understandable considering that she was really struggling with the language, and because of this, she tended to be pretty quiet in school. But her classmates still came up with a nickname for her, which is very fitting. They called her Barbie. Now that Anna's family was much more comfortable financially, her father was able to buy her some of those designer items that she really wanted, and they also had the disposable income to pay for German, English, and French tutors as well as dance classes for her. Anna did end up making a group of friends in Germany, and her father said that she seemed pretty happy with them, as well as that she was generally a pretty good kid as far as teenagers go. Anna seemed to have a little bit of a different opinion from her father, however, and she said that she thought that her parents were way too conservative for her, and she started to rebel against them as a teenager, and that she didn't really like when they told her what to do. She graduated high school in 2011, and now that she was 19, Anna was looking forward to getting out of the small town in Germany where she had spent those high school years. Her father did recognize that Anna wanted to leave, however, he also thought that Anna really thought she was too good for her life in Germany with her family, which does make me really sad for him. I mean, he did try really hard to give her the things that she wanted, but in the end, he said that she wanted to live like Paris Hilton, which was a little bit out of their price range. Another thing to mention here is that Anna, quote, outgrew her high school friends pretty quickly. She had set her sights on city life, which she saw as being much more glamorous than the way she grew up, and she was thinking of moving to places like Berlin or Paris. Anna's first destination after high school was London. She went there to attend the Central St. Martin's College of Art, but she ended up dropping out after only a few weeks, quickly moving on to Berlin, where she would end up working as a fashion intern for a PR firm in 2012. Allegedly, she did borrow money from several people while she was staying in Berlin, and she never paid them back. But again, she quickly moved on, and in 2013, Anna moved to Paris, where she was going to be a fashion intern for the magazine Purple. Before this, she had actually interviewed with Vogue Paris, but Anna felt that she was above the more menial intern tasks like getting coffee, things like that, so she chose to go and work for Purple instead. Keep this fact in mind because I think it's a pretty good indicator of her character as a whole. It was this internship with Purple where she changed her name from Anna Sorokin to Anna Delvey. She was using Delvey as an alias to post photos that she was taking for Purple. Now, this is interesting, I think, but according to Anna, Delvey was her mother's maiden name, and that's why she had chosen it. But later, her family would claim that they had never heard of that name before, and she would eventually admit that she had just made it all up. What I do find interesting is that during this time, Anna's family was still supporting her financially. Even though Vadim was experiencing some turmoil in his own career, the transportation company that he had worked for had gone bankrupt, so he ended up opening a heating and cooling business on his own instead. While working at Purple, Anna was only making about 400 euros per month, so her parents were supporting her in terms of things like rent and her car. But despite the support that they were giving her, Anna didn't correspond much with her parents, and even as she was traveling to different places, even different countries, she usually didn't tell them where she was going or what she was doing. And yes, of course, I know it's pretty normal for most young people to not tell their parents every detail of their lives, but she wasn't giving them any details, despite the fact that they were funding pretty much everything for her, and it's something about that just doesn't sit right with me, and again, speaks volumes about her character, in my opinion. Her father would later say, quote, "We always paid for her accommodations, her rent, and other matters. She assured us these costs were the best investment. If she ever needed something at one point or another, it didn't matter. The future was always bright." Anna was trying to build a life for herself, one that was much more glamorous and exciting than she had with her parents in Germany, and through her work with Purple, she was making lots of connections in the fashion industry. At the time, she was dating a man named Hunter Lee Soik. He was a tech futurist who was often making appearances at TED conferences, and he was also trying to secure funding for an app that he was creating, which meant that the two of them spent a lot of time together traveling and hosting expensive, extravagant dinners for investors. Anna and Hunter were together for about 2 years, and Hunter was really her first introduction to the world of business. When the two ended their relationship, Hunter decided to go to Dubai, and Anna decided that she would be jetting off to New York City to build a life for herself in the Big Apple. Now, this is getting to the part of the story where things really start to spiral out of control, but after going through her life and her upbringing, it does seem pretty clear that for Anna, the writing really was on the wall the whole time. The way that she grew up just did not fit this vision that she had for herself. She saw herself as rich and famous, but not in the same way that normal kids wish to be their favorite stars. She almost had an obsession with it, and her vanity throughout her life is honestly astounding. So let's get down to some of those nitty-gritty details of her story, and I'm going to tell you about the real Anna Delvey and the real damage that she caused. Anna wanted people to think that she came from a wealthy and powerful family, so she figured that there was really only one way to accomplish this: fake it until you make it. Which, as a side note, this can be an excellent strategy to help people build confidence in themselves, but not so much when the thing that you are faking is genuinely just a flat-out lie. But anyways, Anna saw New York City as the perfect place to reinvent herself with this new personality and background that she had always wanted, and this started pretty much immediately after she arrived there. Anna was presenting herself as Anna Delvey, who was a sophisticated and extremely wealthy German heiress, someone who dazzled those around her with her expensive clothing and her expensive nights out. She told people that she grew up in Cologne, Germany. So quickly, she was rising as one of New York's hottest young socialites and telling everyone that her wealthy father was the one who was funding this elaborate lifestyle, though no one who was close to her actually seemed to know what her father did. However, they knew that she did, of course, have her own trust fund, which she would be able to access once she turned 25, and she claimed that this trust fund contained a whopping 60 million euros. I do find it interesting, however, that a lot of people turned blinders to some pretty glaring red flags when Anna was initially on this social rise. Firstly, her accent was just plain weird. It was like kind of German, but not really. Mostly people said that her accent just sounded foreign. Not to mention, her German wasn't that great either, especially for being the native speaker that she claimed to be. It also seemed that Anna was constantly mooching off of others. She was sleeping on friends' couches, asking other people to pick up tabs, etc. Yet she always had an excuse for this. It was either her father had cut her off that week or a wire transfer just hadn't come through yet. But Anna always promised that she would be paying people back. And with the way that she presented herself, it did seem that they had no reason not to believe her. She also had made some pretty wealthy friends on this kind of journey she was going on, so after a while had gone by, these friends often forgot that she owed them any money at all. Now, I have to throw this in here because this is such a bizarre and kind of angering detail to me. I don't even really have any words to describe how I felt learning this part of the story. Keep in mind, I am not the biggest fan of scammers, so I'm doing my best to not be overly critical towards Anna here, but there is just something about a person who can take from others and lie right to their faces about it without feeling any remorse or even considering how they might be hurting somebody. It's really frustrating and it does bother me, but again, I'm trying. The reason I say this is because Anna Delvey actually spent about 4 months during this time in her life living with Billy McFarland while he was working on his first company, Magnesis. If you're not familiar with that name, Billy McFarland was the disaster of a CEO that was behind the infamous Firefest. Like I said, at this time he was working on his first company, which was Magnesis. This was essentially going to be a private credit card company that was supposed to be appealing to millennials, giving them exclusive access to different clubs and high-end restaurants, which could be an entire other episode in and of itself because this obviously was a scam as well. Anna lived with him without paying rent for months, and he only kicked her out when he moved, which essentially was just him getting an excuse to kick her out. At this time, Anna also became fast friends with a woman named Rachel Williams. She was a photo editor who worked for Vanity Fair. The two of them had met through mutual friends via Instagram, and they first hung out at a nightclub in New York. And the two of them spent a lot of time together, basically just spending money. This was expensive dinners, personal training sessions, spa treatments, and Anna always paid for all of these things for both of them. And it was Rachel, actually, who Anna seemingly first confided in about her ambition to start a visual arts center. Anna wanted to create her own version of the Soho House, but better. Don't worry, we are going to come back to the arts center later. Rachel Williams definitely experienced one of Anna Delvey's most intense and damaging scams, but she was far from Anna's only victim while the fake heiress was staying in New York City. What is extremely strange to me about all of this was just how many people Anna Delvey was actually able to trick into believing that all of this lavishness really was her life. Nefertari Davis, who was a 25-year-old concierge at 11 Howard, a boutique hotel in Soho where Anna stayed starting in February of 2017, recalled that she would tip $100 every single time someone helped her. She said that not only did Anna know all of the hottest places to go, when she was there, she also clearly knew all of the owners and all of the staff, so she was fitting right in. Anna came to stay at the 11 Howard Hotel on February 17th of 2017, and she booked a month-long stay that cost $400 per night. She also noted some concerning things about Anna's character, however. Other employees at this hotel found Anna to be deeply annoying and pretty ill-mannered for someone who claimed to be an heiress. Apparently, she would never say the words please or thank you. She would often make classist remarks and was generally just extremely self-absorbed. Going back to Nefertari Davis, however, her and Anna ended up becoming really good friends, and she did note again that Anna would always pay for everything that they did together, similar to her relationship with Rachel Williams. Nefertari did start picking up on the fact, though, that Anna was having some trouble accessing her money, and on one occasion in particular, the two of them went to dinner together at St. Ambrose. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but apparently it's a really expensive restaurant. At the end of the night, Anna's card ended up declining, which in itself was pretty strange, but things got even weirder when Anna gave the waiter a list of about 12 different credit card numbers to try, and every single one of those numbers was declined. Nefertari ended up having to cover the $286 bill, which was a huge amount of money for her at the time, and she said that even covering the bill just made her feel sick with worry. She said that she wasn't really worried about whether or not Anna would pay her back, though, and shockingly, Anna actually did pay her back the very next day. Not only that, Anna paid her back 3 times the amount of this $286 bill, all in cash. Now, I don't really know what to make of this scenario, honestly, other than that it makes me think Anna genuinely considered Nefertari to be a close friend, and she actually felt bad that she had to pay the bill that night, or she was just covering her tracks. I'm not really sure either way. What was clear, though, is that Anna was spending money like her life depended on it. She was tipping everyone $100 in cash. She would constantly go on these lavish shopping trips and pay thousands of dollars in cash for personal training sessions and much, much more. At one point, a gallerist at Pace introduced her to a man named Michael Wang, I think. He was the collector and founder of Beijing's M. Woods Museum, and Anna suggested that the two of them take a trip to the Venice Biennale. Huang recalled feeling a little bit weird about this when Anna asked him to book the plane tickets and the hotel on his card, and he also found it weird that she only ever paid for things in cash. After the two of them got back from this trip, she seemed to just forget that she owed him any money at all, It was totaling around $2,000 to $3,000, and this was never paid back to him. And this wasn't the only encounter that the two of them had like this. Anna had hired a PR firm to throw a birthday party for her at Sadelle's restaurant in Soho. Wong remembers that there were a lot of very successful people there, but he also remembers that a couple of days later, the restaurant themselves actually messaged him on Instagram after seeing photos of the two of them together. They were asking for Anna's contact information because she had never paid the bill for this party, and Wong later stated that it was at this moment that he kind of knew all of this was a complete sham. What is interesting to me is that a lot of people share the same opinion about why exactly all of these people kept lending Anna money and not speaking out or approaching her about this when it wasn't paid back. Now, this is not something that I would have thought of, but it is fascinating. A lot of people present the idea that most of these rich people that Anna was surrounding herself with figured that Anna had so much money that she was legitimately just losing track of it, and that's how she was spending and forgetting to pay people back. But as I think we all kind of know, once there's a crack in the foundation, things can only get worse from there. And things were starting to get worse for Anna very quickly as more and more people were being impacted by her scamming behavior. Her friend that picked up the restaurant bill from earlier, Nefertari, who was also the one who worked for the hotel where Anna was staying, received a call from her manager one day stating that Anna Delvey never put a credit card down on file and she hadn't paid anything towards the bill that she was racking up. Now, I know what you're thinking, how is this even possible? But honestly, it really came down to luck and clever lies. Because this hotel was very new when she first arrived there, and because she was staying for such a long time, as well as the fact that Anna was considered to be a valued guest, the hotel agreed that instead of putting down a card, they would accept a wire transfer from her as their form of payment. At that point, Anna had been staying there for over a month, however, and she owed the hotel around $30,000 that was completely unpaid. Now, Nefertari knew this was kind of going to be an awkward conversation, but she did bring it up to Anna, and she merely said that the wire transfer was on the way. Then, only a couple of hours later, Anna actually ended up showing up to the front desk with a case of 1975 Dom Perignon for all of the staff. But despite this action, the 11 Howard was getting really concerned about the bill, so Anna decided she would have to do something about this. On April 11th of 2017, she wrote $160,000 worth of bad checks and deposited them into her city bank account. Now, this was 2017, so depositing bad checks was something that would have been on the bank's radar pretty quickly, but Anna was still able to withdraw $70,000 before the checks could be returned. With these newly acquired assets, Anna did end up wiring the full amount of her hotel bill to the 11 Howard, which is fantastic, but Anna kept on living there, which meant that the bill only kept growing, and she still had not put a card down on file, and because there was still no card on file, the hotel started to get really frustrated with Anna and her excessive spending. The lavish lifestyle would continue for Anna, however, and that same year, 2017, one of her bankers got her on the list for the annual Berkshire Hathaway Shareholders Conference. This was taking place in Omaha, Nebraska, and it was a pretty high-profile conference, known by some people as Woodstock for capitalists. And Anna, being the opportunist that she was thrilled by the invitation, and she planned to attend with some business associates of hers, whatever that means, and she would definitely be traveling in style to this conference. On May 5th of 2017, Anna booked a private jet from New York to Omaha through a company called Blade. This was about a $32,000 expense, which Anna, not surprisingly, told them that she was going to wire the money for this flight. All was going well in Omaha and she was enjoying this vacation until Anna ended up getting a message from Nefertari back at the 11 Howard in New York. This message told her that the hotel had put all of her belongings into storage and had changed the lock code on the room that Anna had been staying in. Not only that, but they would only be returning her belongings if she paid for her entire balance. So Anna continued on with the rest of this conference and eventually would return back to New York again on a Blade private jet, and she was able to show Blade a forged wire transfer confirmation, though of course this money would never come. So when Anna returned to New York, she returned to the 11 Howard in an absolute rage. She told the hotel that she would be moving out as soon as she got back from the vacation that she had planned in Morocco. Now, you may have noticed that Anna, while she is living a very fast and glamorous type of lifestyle, didn't seem to have many friends that she was actually close with. I know we've already talked about Nefertari from the 11 Howard, but I also want to remind you about Rachel Williams, the photo editor who worked for Vanity Fair. The other person who Anna was spending a lot of time with in early 2017 was her personal trainer, who she had actually developed a very close relationship with, and this was a woman named Casey Duke. Even in April and May of 2017, with her financial situation starting to get pretty dire, Anna was never one to let herself be outdone by the rich and famous, so she was inspired by Khloe Kardashian herself to book a $7,000 per night vacation home with a private butler at La Munia. This was in Morocco, and it was one of only 4 private accommodations on this hotel grounds that had a private pool. So Anna invited Rachel Williams, Nefertari, her trainer Casey Duke, and a videographer friend of hers named Jesse Hawk on this trip to Morocco that was going to total 8 days, and obviously gave everyone the impression that Anna was going to be covering the costs for this entire trip for everybody. Nefertari did decide not to go on this trip after her mom said that she had a really bad feeling about the whole thing, and Casey Duke had to return home after only about 2 days when she got food poisoning that was so bad she could not stay on this trip. However, Nefertari and Casey would later learn exactly what actually transpired on the rest of this trip. Anna had given the hotel her debit card number to cover the stay for the group, which at this point was consisting of Anna, Rachel Williams, the photo editor, and the videographer Jesse Hawk. As they reached the end of their stay, however, Anna's card declined, and this was a huge issue, obviously, when Anna was unable to pay the balance, and pressure from the hotel was mounting. And this does get a little scary. Actually, 2 hotel workers showed up at their door, threatening to arrest Anna if she didn't pay. So at this point, there are people at the hotel door who are literally threatening them, so Rachel Williams felt that she was essentially forced to pay the entire bill for the group's stay. This totaled $62,000. Not only is this a shocking amount of money for a vacation, but it was also more money than Rachel Williams made in an entire year. Anna promised that she was going to pay Rachel back, and Rachel did believe her at the time. She was actually so confident about this that she decided she was going to fly home the next day, and she left Anna there in Morocco. But Rachel would soon find out that she had fallen victim to Anna Delvey the scammer, because all she ever received was a wire transfer for $5,000 a month later. And I can't even begin to imagine how horribly stressful this must have been for Rachel. I can't begin to think how she would have coped with almost instantly being in now tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt, all for a friend who she thought that she could trust. And this wasn't the end of this disastrous vacation. Casey Duke, the trainer who had returned from the trip early, would receive a call from Anna about a week later, and Anna was then alone in the Four Seasons in Casablanca, and she was absolutely hysterical when Casey answered this call. She was saying that her credit cards wouldn't go through and that the hotel was going to call the police on her. Now, call it what you want, but Casey definitely had some sort of guardian angel on her shoulder throughout this entire situation, because she actually did give the hotel her own credit card number to try and help Anna get out of this situation, and that card didn't go through. She even took this a step further, calling a friend of hers who also gave her credit card number, which also didn't go through. Now, I think all of the irony in the world must have come together at this exact moment in time because the hotel ended up deciding that because every single card had declined, there must have been something wrong on their end and not possibly on Anna's. And get this, Casey even promised the hotel that Anna was good for the money that she owed. So Casey paid for Anna's plane ticket back to New York, and Anna insisted on first class, which she didn't get, thank God. But a few days later, Anna did end up returning to the 11 Howard where she had been staying, and she did move all of her stuff out of the hotel and moved downtown into the Beekman Hotel. Anna successfully stayed at the Beekman Hotel for about 20 days, but as we saw with the hotel fiasco on Anna's last trip, things were definitely going downhill for her at this point, and very, very quickly. After these 20 days, the Beekman staff once again noticed that they didn't have a credit card on file for Anna, and that the promised wire transfer, which at that point totaled $11,518, had not yet come through. So at this point, the hotel decided that their only recourse was going to be to lock Anna out of her room and confiscate her belongings. After being kicked out of the Beekman Hotel, Anna went to stay at the W Hotel, and this ended pretty much exactly the same way. However, the last stay was only about 2 days long. So now Anna had absolutely nowhere to go and clearly not a dollar to her name, so she called Casey and through tears asked to spend the night at Casey's apartment. Casey was apprehensive of this at first, so Anna insisted that she was in a really bad mental state and was afraid of hurting herself if she were left alone. That comment in particular really just grinds my gears. It disgusts me. It's so manipulative and it shows so much indifference towards people who might genuinely be experiencing those emotions. But Casey was extremely concerned by this, understandably, so she decided that she was going to let Anna stay for the night. The next morning, Casey lent Anna a dress of hers, and Anna just went on her way, though she had left her laptop in Casey's apartment, seemingly in a ploy to get Casey to allow her back in for that next night. However, it did seem that at this point in their relationship, Casey was really just done with Anna, and she gave the laptop to her doorman, telling her that Anna could just pick it up at the front desk. This prompted some pretty unhinged behavior from Anna, and she had the doorman call up to Casey's apartment to tell her that Anna was waiting for her in the lobby. To which Casey told the doorman to tell Anna that she wasn't home, so Anna decided that the best course of action would be to just sit in the lobby and wait for 6 hours while Casey waited for her to leave. What is interesting is that up until this point, Casey actually had no idea about what had happened between Anna and Rachel in Morocco after she had gotten sick and had to leave the trip. But while Anna was sitting in her apartment lobby with nothing else to do, Casey decided to give Rachel a call, and that is when she found out about the $62,000 bill that Rachel had been forced to pay and that Anna had not paid her back for. Rachel had been begging Anna to pay her back this entire time since she was now in a really bad financial situation, but all Anna ever did was keep on sending wire transfer confirmations, which obviously were fake and never went through. So I want to pivot a little bit here because there is a huge part of the Anna Delvey story that we have not talked about, but there are so many layers to this particular scam that she attempted, so we are going to talk about it separately from the rest of the information that I've just given you. So we just talked about all of the individuals and hotels and banks that Anna successfully scammed. However, the scam of the Anna Delvey Foundation was a massive undertaking for her. This was something that she was working on for a very long time. So as we're going through this part of her story, just know that as she was running all of the other scams, she was working on this massive project concurrently. The Anna Delvey Foundation was pretty much in the works for the entire time that Anna was running her other scams, so we are jumping off of the chronological timeline to just go over this foundation separately in its entirety. So let's talk about the Anna Delvey Foundation because Anna herself had a really specific vision for this foundation, and it was going to be an extravagant and incredibly exclusive membership club. She planned for the foundation to be housed in a beautiful historic building located at 281 Park Avenue South. This building was also known as the Church Missions House. The plan was over 19,000 square feet of exhibition space, including a lending program and archives, revolving galleries, and an artist residency program. Additionally, she wanted an art and design store, rooftop lounge, restaurants, a juice bar, and a German bakery. There was going to be 4 to 6 professionally curated art shows there each year. So how on earth was she planning to go about founding this foundation? Remember, even though Anna wasn't the heiress that she claimed to be, she still did have a lot of legitimate connections. So a friend of hers from Purple, which was the magazine she interned for in Paris, had helped her initially scout a building on the Lower East Side, but it was too close to a school to be able to secure a liquor license, so Anna needed a new building. She had befriended a man named Gabriel Caltrava, who was the son of an architect and powerful real estate advisor, and claims that his family had helped her to secure the lease on the Church Missions House. Through this same connection, she actually met with an executive named Michael Jaffe, who introduced her to food and beverage companies for her plan. One of these people was actually one of the founders of Nobu, which is that incredibly famous sushi restaurant in LA where all of the celebrities go, and there's paparazzi there 24/7. I just thought that was a little bit of an interesting detail. Obviously, however, the Anna Delvey Foundation did need investors, since she was not going to be able to put this together on her own, so she set out to procure the funds that she was going to need. Her plan was that she needed $29 million in order to get the foundation up and running. One of the avenues that she went down to get this loan was to get in touch with a man named Andy Lance, who was a partner at Gibson Dunn. This was a really large law firm that specializes in real estate. To get this process started, Anna filled out a new client intake form for Gibson Dunn, which meant that she was going to need to prove that she had financial resources, which she didn't. So Andy Lance put her in touch with a lot of major banks and used himself as a reference to tell them that her personal assets were located overseas, but even so, they were legitimate. One of these banks was City National, and Anna approached City National on November 21st of 2016. This was in order to obtain a $22 million loan from them, and she told the bank that she had 60 million euros in a trust fund that was controlled by her father in Germany. She told City National that she could have a letter verifying this trust existence sent from UBS, which is an investment banking firm that is based in Switzerland. The problem here is that Anna actually went through with this and provided City National with forged bank statements. However, even with these bank statements, City National still decided to deny Anna's application for the loan. They believed that she simply would not be able to access the cash flow that was going to be necessary to make the loan repayments. At this point, executives were really pressuring Anna to come up with the money that she needed and fast if she really wanted to lease the building for her foundation. If not, the Church Missions House was going to go with a Swedish museum called Fotografiska. This was a highly desirable and absolutely stunning building, so Anna was one of many people who were fighting to secure this loan. This meant that she just had to keep trying, and on December 30th of 2016, she tried to secure a $25 to $30 million loan from Fortress Investment Group, giving them the same story that she presented to City National and using the same forged documents. This time, however, Anna was able to get approved for the loan, and Fortress Investment Group started moving forwards with next steps with her. This would include due diligence, so part of it was requiring Anna to pay $100,000 as a deposit as a show of good faith. So Anna promised a wire transfer in that amount. She loves wire transfers. But weeks were going by, and this wire transfer still had not arrived to Fortress Investments. So knowing that she needed to come up with this money and quickly, Anna actually went back to City National Bank on January 11th of 2017 asking for a $100,000 loan. She told City National that it was just taking too long to have the money wired from her trust, and remember they had seen those fake bank statements, so they decided that it wasn't going to be too big of a risk to let Anna overdraft her account temporarily. Now, City National obviously never received this $100,000, but Anna did do her best to cover her tracks here, even providing them with a fake wire transfer confirmation. But even with these issues over at City National, Anna had still been approved for the loan by Fortress Investment Group, and they were in the final stages of pushing the loan through. One of the requirements to finalize the loan was going to be an in-person meeting with the banker from UBS, who was supposed to have provided proof of Anna's trust fund. Knowing that this was obviously going to expose her entire ruse, Anna panicked at this meeting request, and she ended up needing to just withdraw her loan application form from Fortress entirely on February 2nd of 2017. However, at this, Fortress did return $55,000 of her $100,000 deposit. But Anna was definitely a hustler at this time, so she knew that she now needed to turn to private investors in order to fund the foundation because she did not want to give up on the Anna Delvey Foundation. A detailed 80-page brochure was being compiled in order to pitch the foundation to investors, and pages of this pitch deck would actually later be used as evidence against Anna Delvey in court. And this brochure is truly just a spectacle to read. It paints Anna Delvey as an expert art collector and curator and someone who is fully qualified to run a foundation of this caliber. One quote reads, quote, "Anna has since honed her own tastes in collecting and curatorship, assembling a world-class collection of contemporary artworks from a wide range of geographies, styles, and media. Active in philanthropic interests, Anna is the primary benefactor of a nonprofit foundation aimed at offering parts of the collection for view to the people of New York, as well as fostering artist-in-residence programs for emerging talent in and around New York City." Another quote reads, quote, "Her interests and collection has spanned giants of the modern and contemporary scene." She is listed on page 65 of this brochure as the founder and creative director of the Anna Delvey Foundation, with the description under her own name reading, quote, "A native of Cologne, Germany, Anna Delvey was raised in a household of modern and contemporary collectors and enthusiasts." All of this, obviously, was lies, and it was information that was later going to be revealed at her trial as evidence for the prosecution. But it wouldn't end there for the scams of Anna Delvey, because the company who designed and executed this brochure for the Anna Delvey Foundation was called FutureCore. It was founded and led by a man named Mark Kremers, who has not been silent about his disdain for Anna. He expressed that he was an unwitting victim to her schemes when she failed to compensate FutureCore for the work that they had done for her. Now, for Mark Kremers, this was especially painful, and he expressed this sentiment very eloquently, I thought, saying, quote, "She conned major architectural firms and banks, but she also stole time and money from individuals and small businesses like mine." The total that Anna Delvey owed for this pitch deck was 17,000 euros, which was no small unpaid due for an independent design studio. This was what she owed them for the design of the pitch deck and also for the creation of the logo for the Anna Delvey Foundation. And unfortunately for Mark Kremers, he honestly had no reason not to believe at the time that Anna Delvey was legitimate. He said, quote, "I came into the picture right at the very pinnacle of her scam when she had her fundraising deck written by New York property development elite and board of advisors, some of which were genuine even. So there was nothing to suspect in terms of this not being a real thing." Things really did start to get concerning after a while, however, and Kremers resorted to sending emails to Anna's financial advisor, who was supposedly named Peter W. Henneke. But these emails eventually started bouncing back to him, and Anna's explanation for this was pretty finite. She said that Peter had passed away so Kremers should not even bother contacting him anymore. Now, I'm sure you probably could have guessed this detail, but Peter W. Henneke was not at all a real person, and his phone number would eventually be traced back to a burner phone that Anna had bought at a convenience store. Mark Kremers spent 9 months in total trying to get Anna to pay for the work that he did for her, stating afterwards, quote, "I was just waiting for the illusion to shatter, which it did in spectacular fashion. She is truly the malignant child of the Instagram age." And for someone whose small business and independent design company has been scammed out of 17,000 euros, which is a lot of money and especially a lot of time that they spent developing this, that's a really nice way of saying it, but it's also such an iconic quote. The malignant child of the Instagram age just encompasses this entire case so well. Now, on part 2 of this series of Anna Delvey, we're going to dive into what happened in the aftermath of all of her scams, how Anna was brought to justice, and how her story has evolved since then. Anna has become a celebrity in her own right, and most recently, it was announced that she is going to be a contestant on the next season of Dancing with the Stars. No, I'm not kidding. A decision that the network has obviously received a huge amount of attention and backlash for, considering how controversial of a public figure she really is. Anna has appeared in podcasts, she is very outspoken in interviews, and she has not expressed any remorse or regret for the people that she hurt while she was running all of these scams. Because of this, I do think it's extremely interesting to talk about the psychological side of not only Anna herself, but also the reasons why we're so fascinated with her as a collective. Something that I found really interesting was comments from a psychologist named Maria Konakova, who said that Anna's mindset exploits our fascination for an existence that's out of the ordinary, and I think that that's very true. Anna's life and trial were obviously just a spectacle of all things out of the ordinary. Anna herself does display some narcissistic characteristics. This is not a diagnosis, just an observation, but she clearly does have issues with vanity, and throughout her scams, she did everything that she could to avoid showing people that she wasn't this glamorous foreigner who she said that she was. Delusions of grandeur is also something that Anna absolutely demonstrates throughout these scams, and this essentially refers to when someone thinks that they have more wealth or more power than the people around them. So a good reference to this behavior would be Anna's reported rude statements towards hotel staff at the 11 Howard Hotel while she was staying there. There has been a lot of speculation on whether or not Anna is a psychopath, and the general consensus by experts is that she is very low on the scale of psychopathy, though she does display some of these characteristics. For example, she disregards the societal rules or the feelings of others, and she doesn't show any remorse for deceiving people. Obviously, I'm not saying that Anna Delvey is a psychopath, but a lot of people have ventured to say that, so I wanted to make sure I covered it here. Experts say the jury's out. Lastly, a huge part of the psychological profile of Anna Delvey is the concept of social proof. According to Psych2Go, social proof occurs when you have people on board with you, and that makes it easier to get others to follow you. Anna herself demonstrates this by sharing her lavish lifestyle on her social media pages and networking with people who had a lot of wealth and who had already built good reputations in New York and the business community as a whole. What is interesting about this is that Anna seems to exploit the processes that we rely on daily as we're communicating and cooperating with others, essentially just meaning that she exploited the fact that people tend to be more trustworthy by nature than untrustworthy. I'm not going to dive too much more into this since I am most decidedly not a psychologist and I am not qualified to say anything, concrete about Anna Delvey and her psychological profile, but as we move into the next episode where we're going to be discussing a lot more of her fame and notoriety, all of this stuff is going to be important to keep in mind. That being said, stick around because I am doing a major deep dive into the dramatics of her trial and her media presence, and it's all very, very fascinating stuff. But this episode is getting really long already, and I don't want to give anything else away because I am so excited for the next one, and the research that I've been doing for it so far is mind-blowing stuff. So, all of that being said, thank you so much for listening to this week's first episode of the Anna Delvey series. I really appreciate your time and attention if you've made it this far, and I'm going to be back on Wednesday of this week with the final part of the Anna Delvey story. So with that, thank you again. Take some time to digest all of that information, and we are going to end this episode, as always, until next time.